Okay, so I'm very excited because I'm going to get to do an unboxing video today. But this is not your classic unboxing video. I'm not going to be unboxing makeup. I'm not going to be unboxing crazy stuff from Amazon. Instead, I'm unboxing something that I got a couple of weeks ago, and I can't believe that I have been able to withdraw myself and withhold myself. That's the word I'm looking for. Unboxing this item. So I'm going to tell you who it's from and kind of build the suspense as to what it is. A couple weeks ago, maybe about a month and a half ago, I put out a call for something. And the person that responded is a woman named Mistress Gillian de Cheviot. She is a laurel here in the Mid-Realm, in the Middle Kingdom. And she is a laurel in textiles, weaving, and fiber arts. She was made a laurel in 2004 by Alistair and Guinevere. And so that gives you a little sneak peek, a little hint as to what we're going to be unboxing. She is kind of did something pretty fantastic that I think everybody needs to know about. She did a project which is a dream project of mine. Who knows if I'll ever get to it. But the nice thing is the thing I'm going to unbox today is part of another dream project that I know that I one day will actually realize. So her project was taking wool from sheep and making a full-on tunic. So she actually sheared the sheep, she scoured the wool, she cleaned, she processed it, she spun the wool, she wove the wool, she constructed the pattern, and then she made a complete Anglo-Saxon tunic for Mistress Melisande de Marmande, who is her laurel. And she did all the period construction, including putting patches on the side for a woman, which would have been done in order to allow for pregnancy expansion. She dyed it. I think, I could be wrong about this part, but I think that she actually grew the madder to then dye it with, but she certainly did all of her own dyeing. So she did a complete sheep to final tunic kind of thing, which is fantastic. And that is a dream of mine to do, either with sheep to a wool garment or with flax to a linen garment. That is something, though, that is going to take many years, I think, for me to build up to that level and also have access to all those available resources. She also, Mistress Gillian, also did, if you're familiar with it, Duke Talamar's diamond twill blue coat that he has in his Sutton Hoo display. It's the warrior coat. So just kind of give you an idea of the caliber and the quality of skillmanship that has gone into what I'm about to unbox. So hang on. Here it is. So I'm going to unbox this. And then you're going to get to see my actual raw, I don't want to cut into it, unfettered reaction to this. So excited. Okay. Okay, nothing else. Oh, I smelled it. It smells so good. Okay. Oh my God. It's so beautiful. Oh my God. Okay, so let me tell you what I know about this. Oh, so pretty. Okay, so this is 25-inch wide fabric, linen fabric. It was woven on a 26-inch shocked baby wolf loom. It took her about a month to weave this entire thing of pretty consistent activity for over a course of a month. She said she wove this actually about 10 or maybe even as long as 15 years ago, and has kind of been looking for the right project or the right person to send it to. And so we did a trade. So this is what she sent me. It is a plain weave or tabby weave linen, which for those of you that aren't familiar with that much weaving terminology, it basically means kind of like when you were in school and they did the every other crisscross. That's what it is. It's every other, you're up, down, or over, under, going both ways. So that is what's called a plain weave, or sometimes referred to as a tabby weave, and that's what this is. Doesn't make it any less beautiful. It is, even if it's not a super complex weave, it's just stunning. So the threads are actually a 20-to-1 wet spun linen flax from Ireland. So if you don't know what those numbers mean, basically the first number, 20, is what's called the set. It's S-E-T-T. And that is if you were to line up all of the fibers without scrunching them, but just kind of line them up one by one by one, how many of those fibers would you get in 20 and 1 inch? And so that number is 20. And so that basically tells you sort of the thickness of the fiber itself. The /1, so 20-to-1, 1 means that is a single ply, or actually technically a single is just not plied at all. It is one single strand, which is incredibly hard to find. So she actually had to do some deep digging in order to find this, and she found it in a vendor in Ireland. So the way she wove it, even though if you were just to sort of casually line up those threads, and there would be 20 in 1 inch, the way she wove it is 30 ends per inch, or 30 EPI, if you are familiar with those terms, which means it's a little scrunched in, but it also means that it's going to be not a super fine weave, so you can actually get, it's a nice thickness. Okay, hang on. So this is the end. And I would call this a medium thickness. It is not really see-through. Like, you can kind of see me through. I don't know. I feel like I can see you through, and you guys can maybe see me through. But this is absolutely the thickness of linen that I traditionally work with for block printing, which is kind of what I was hoping for with this. So let me tell you a little bit more about this fabric, because it is so amazing. She actually boiled the linen thread to basically get rid of some of the impurities and what's sometimes referred to as flax snot. Because when people are weaving flax into linen, the way that you need to weave is to do it wet. And that's usually with water, but sometimes it's done with a sizing. And so that, along with just the actual process of making flax into linen, or spinning flax, there's some cellulose properties that kind of can get gunky and build up. So she boiled the linen to remove those impurities, and then she ended up weaving it herself, but she wove it wet. So just like you would spin it wet, you want to weave it wet, because flax or linen is stronger when it's wet. And so it helps you to sort of pack things in a little tighter, pull it a little harder, get a nice even thickness as well as tension, and just make it all around better. She then sun bleached this fabric out in the sun. So while this is a fairly natural color that you would get out of linen, it's also a little bit lighter than some of them. A lot of times linen can either be dewret or river wet. I'm drawing a blank here. Anyways, there's 2 different processes that you can ret the linen. And so this is a very nice color. I would call this like a light parchment color. It's just a little bit darker than cream, but that's okay, because my intention is to end up dyeing this. But what I wanted was, hang on, I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay, let me back up. I'm so excited. So it's sun bleached. And then once she was done weaving the whole length of it, and I have about 8.5 to 9 yards of it here, she then cold mangled it. And mangling is a process by which you take a rolling pin and you basically are rolling back and forth over the fabric itself to basically flatten the fibers. But then what it does is it turns gray goods into actual fabric. It gives the linen, especially since it's single plied, it gives it a ribbon-like appearance, which gives it a beautiful sheen and luster, and it also makes it incredibly soft. Now, I know a lot of people complain about how scratchy linen is, and this is not at all scratchy. I mean, I am really, really, really excited to work with this. So I think I've told you guys just about everything that I know about it. Oh, fun little fact about mangle boards, which are known for many, 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 many centuries. Mangle boards were often carved as wedding gifts, and this is information that Mr. Skillion shared with me, and I thought it was fun and exciting, so I wanted to share it with you. So she shared that mangle boards were frequently given as wedding gifts, and oftentimes on the handle of the mangle board itself would be a horse that was carved, which I thought was a fun little fact. So this is the fabric that I've got, and the reason, I mean, I would be nerding out and excited about this in the first place, but the reason I am so excited is one of my dreams, particularly in the sort of realm of interest of block printing of mine, is to take a fabric that was hand woven, to dye it as it was done in period, and then to carve my own block as it was done in period into a pearwood, which I already have acquired, and then to print on the fabric with a period block that I carved myself with period pigments, and then use period reproduction sewing tools, which I've already acquired, and I'll do a whole video on that at some point, to construct a garment according to historically accurate, as best as we can document, construction or patterning methods. So this is why I'm so excited. I now have 8.5 yards of 25-inch wide linen, which you can see the width right here. This is enough for me to be able to make a full-length kirtle or a kaftan, depending on what I decide to do with it. I have a couple of ideas bouncing around in my head in terms of what I'm actually going to carve. There is a block that was found in Kyiv, Ukraine, and the block is a partial block. And actually there's 3 blocks that are partial blocks, but the one I'm thinking of is a partial block that we do not, there's no way for us to totally guess what the whole block looked like. So I'm considering doing that block, but that will definitely take some extrapolation on my end of pairing it with other known textiles of the time period, and then just some sort of like artistic interpretation cannot fully be documented, because what you can see in the block is it's a roundel, and you can see in the block there are some things that are going around it. That part, what's going around in the border of the roundel, is quite clear. The problem is we don't know what was actually in the middle of the roundel. We can kind of guess based on what might have been there, but we don't fully know. The other option that I have is there is a block that we have a full enough fragment of that we can extrapolate what the full thing looked like. And in 1940, in the Russian State Historical Museum's, they had their own publication. An artist did an extrapolation, and I think that the artist got pretty close, but I think that the artist screwed 1 or 2 things up. And we have other pictures that we can look at now that make things a little clearer. And I also found the original archaeologist's drawing of that fabric, that textile fragment, I should say, with his extrapolation. And so if you look at the 2 extrapolations, they're remarkably close, but I think they both got it wrong, but mostly right. And so my other option is to carve what I think is the right, and then kind of explain that. So I don't know what kind of garment I'm going to make. Those block printed pieces, so the first one that I talked about, that we know about the border in the roundel, we have no idea what that fabric fragment was associated with. But the second one we do know was sewn on as a patch on a basically a Kievan Rus or Varangian Guard apron dress. So we have a possibility there that maybe I'll end up making just like a paspixor or an apron dress, or maybe I'll make a kaftan, or maybe I'll just make a straight up kirtle. I'm not sure. But I am considering dyeing with woad, using a fermented urine vat, which I know a couple of people have heard me talk about that I've done before, and I want to do again. My hope is to do it in June. Right now it is the beginning to middle of April. So I need to start collecting urine. A highly unpleasant job, but that's what we are starting to do. And you'll also see that I just created a garden where I can start growing woad. Now, unfortunately, the length of time to grow enough woad in the space that I have to get enough woad powder to dye what I want is probably going to be 2 or 3 years. So the likelihood is that I will buy my own woad powder in order to do this sooner than that. However, I will still concurrently be growing my garden so that I can also speak with some more authenticity and more authority, that's the word I'm looking for, about the garden itself. So if you want to hold on a second, I'll show you the garden. Okay, so here I am in front of my garden. I'm going to show you. Let's do this. Hopefully you guys can see okay. So it's just a small swath here. Goes along the front of our garage and just a little bit to the side. And so this is where I am going to be growing some woad, hopefully. I live in a state in which it is not considered a noxious weed and is not prohibited, though I am aware that we need to be very careful, which is one of the reasons why it has been effectively cordoned off with the brick tiling, and we'll have to be very careful when it comes time for it to bolt to seed to make sure that it doesn't fly all over and invade our neighbors' yards. So this is the beginning. You're going to see lots of updates about, trying not to get anybody's house in the background. You're going to see lots of updates about this process. Me growing the woad, me processing the woad, me dyeing with the woad, me working with the period toolkit, which I'll probably do a video on soon, as well as working with that glorious fabric. So thank you so much, Mr. Skilliam, because you are helping to make this little girl's dreams come true with providing her something that I am just overwhelmed by. So I hope you guys will enjoy this little travel along in my journey.